Start with the Daily Mail, Steve. What are they leading with?
Yeah, it's not a good one today at all. Gruesome. Videos that prove the depravity of Hamas terrorists. Look, anyone who, I suppose I'm biased, I would say right-minded, as in agree with me, who heard the details of the first attack, saw some of the pictures. You've already made your mind on this. Yeah. But Israel have released more details, videos. Now, the newspaper haven't put pictures in from the video. It's too gruesome. Even the description of some of the things that we could have been shown, it's a bit too much. Even reading the details is the kind of thing that's going to haunt you when you start to picture it. And it's because of this this narrative that's come up of trying to almost claim that it's not true, that it's not been happening. So they've had to release extra details to prove it.
It's very interesting, this. Putting aside the emotional response, which mine was strong as well, Andrew Neil tweeted some detail. He'd seen it and said that journalists were in tears. The treatment of some of the children is just about the most horrific stuff you can imagine. But looking at it more strategically, it's also quite interesting. Clearly, a sort of propaganda war is being fought, in parallel with the actual... Well, obviously, Hamas are not fighting anymore. They are now, I suppose, calculating whether or not and how and when to release hostages. But as other people have said, it's almost working in the opposite direction to how war propaganda would traditionally have worked, which would encourage you to think we were winning. Nowadays, war propaganda is basically about highlighting the horrors, the atrocities committed by the other side in order to legitimise your response. I suppose because it's so asymmetrical, apart from anything else. Israel could quite literally nuke Gaza and dispense with it in a single afternoon.
That's also probably internal versus external propaganda as well.
Yeah.
You probably want the rest of the world to see your position.
But the key element of not calling it as propaganda is not in any way to delegitimise it or call it into question. Simply the purpose that it is serving is to legitimise the amount of force, because that's the thing that Israel is always accused of, is being disproportionate, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's also a shift, presumably, in politics and the way we see things, with decolonisation and ideas like this being so strong. To be the ultimate victim is to garner the most sympathy, whereas in the past it's more like might is right. So there's perhaps... Just want to echo what Steve said. Just reading these descriptions was horrific and nauseating. And it's tragic that they're having to do this because people have been playing it down, and this sick kind of moral equivalence that people have been engaging in, or just outright, just rabid sort of anti-Israel sentiment. And people like the BBC have really dropped the ball. These woke actors with their open letters have been pretty appalling. So things like this just remind people of the horrors of what's actually going on. Hopefully will sober a few people up, though I doubt it in many cases.
I agree. I'm just checking her name, Jackie Walker, who was, of course, accused of a lot of anti-Semitism within the Labour Party under Corbyn, still questioning, is there corroborating evidence from independent organisations? Now, putting aside whatever kind of psychosis or whatever kind of, blackened stone she has where her heart should be, this is tactical suicide. Yeah. Because obviously most right-think... like the overwhelming majority of people now are going to go, oh, I'm so sorry that you had to do this. This doubling down on disbelief is like destroying the case, isn't it?
I wonder, though, because what concerns me, it started off that the decoloniser people, there was a mask-off moment as they were celebrating the atrocities. But then it seemed to change to where being anti-Israel became the high-status position in the sort of culture war binary. And that's my concern. That's become high status now. So there's no risk, for example, in the tube driver. That's why he feels emboldened to say free Palestine over the tannoy.